Here is your regular reminder that their morality is vertical and not horizontal. This is why appeals to empathy will not work to change their mind, because their morality is not built on empathy. It's built on authority. And Michael, the Christian, has demonstrated it right here with this comment. He's saying that God isn't really capable of killing anything because he created everything. So he's just uncreating. He's saying it's not wrong to take the life because he owns it. He created it and therefore he owns it. He is bigger and stronger than everyone else. He has the authority to do so. This is a vertical moral system. Under a vertical moral system, murder is not wrong because it harms somebody. It's wrong because you don't have the authority to do it. But that also means that if you have the authority to do it, you can do it. This is the problem with a vertical moral system. This is why they become so violent so quickly. Because all they have to do to convince themselves it's okay to kill someone is to convince themselves that they've been given the authority to do it by God. Holocaust, slavery, colonialism, crusades. Meanwhile, if you have a horizontal moral system, then you believe that murder is wrong because it causes harm. It's not about authority, it's about harm. When you have a horizontal moral system, then you are criticizing a God that would kill people. Because it doesn't matter if that God is bigger or stronger. Might does not make right. It doesn't matter if he claims to have the authority. He's still causing harm. But under that vertical moral system, then might makes right. It's authoritarianism. And when their religion is authoritarian, then that means their moral system is authoritarian. And when their moral system is authoritarian, it will trickle down into all kinds of other beliefs, including their politics, including who they vote for. And if they believe that God has ordained it, if they believe that the ultimate authority figure says it's okay, then it doesn't matter who it harms. Appeals to empathy will not work because they don't get their morals from empathy. They get it from authority. They're authoritarians.
Where is the comparison? How do these two things compare?
Yeah, they don't in real life. But I can explain what they're thinking. First off, forgive all of this. I just filmed a church lady skit, so, I'm in costume. Perhaps it's fitting as I explain how conservative Christians can compare pedophilia and homosexuality. Problem is where they get their morality from. So as a secular humanist, my morality is horizontal. It's based on harm done to the people around me. I decide if something's wrong or not based on whether it hurts somebody, whether it causes harm. But conservative Christians aren't evaluating anything on that horizontal axis. They're making their moral judgments based on the vertical axis. For conservative Christians, it's all about whether it hurts God. And things hurt God if you've broken his rules. So things are bad and wrong if they harm God. And when that's your standard, everything that breaks God's rules is equally bad. Hence why that commenter had no problem saying that pedophilia is the same thing as homosexuality. He doesn't care about the horizontal. He's only looking vertical. I was raised in a conservative Christian family in Middle America. I was fed a diet of church 3 times a week and daily Rush and Dobson on the radio. I was holding signs outside of Planned Parenthood before I knew about the birds and the bees. I was phone banking for Bush before I did driver's training. I went to Christian schools, I read Christian books, I shopped at Christian stores, I voted for Christian men. And I'm telling you that we are never going to stop Christian authoritarianism if we treat it as an aberration of the Christian faith. Jesus is only a small part of Christianity. He is good cop to God the Father's bad cop. You might be right that Christians today are not emulating Jesus, but they are emulating God the Father. And God the Father is authoritarian. If you do not realize that, if you treat them as though they are just ignorant of their holy book or twisting the words of their holy book, then you will never actually make ground against them. The problem is the theology itself. And until we all collectively recognize that the tree roots are rotten, we will never take down this tree. And the fruit will keep poisoning us all. They are never going to care about our suffering because they are okay with our damnation. So many of us right now are sitting in the space of desperately trying to explain it to them in a way that induces the empathy. Like if we can just find the right words, if we can say it the right way, provide the right evidence, remind them we're human, then we can get through to them. That they'll see what they've done, that they'll see what's coming, that they'll be willing to stand with us when we need it. But none of that is going to work with people who have already accepted that we are going to hell. They believe we're going to hell, a place of eternal conscious torment, and they don't stand with us. They take the side of the God who would do it. They claim that they love us, but they're fine with our eternal conscious torment, and they're fine with our tormentor. Of course, they're not going to stand against Trump. Christianity has groomed them for this.
Good question for pro-choicers. How would you feel if your parents wanted to unalive you?
You want me to say I'd feel sad. That's obviously what you're going for here. You're trying to elicit an empathetic response. You clearly think that people are pro-choice because they just haven't put themselves into the shoes of the fetus. If we just imagine ourselves in the shoes of the fetus for a minute, we'd see that we wouldn't want to be aborted. The problem with your argument is that it doesn't matter how I'd feel. I mean, we could talk about how fetuses don't know they're being aborted, but it doesn't matter because my mother's right to her own body autonomy does not trump my right to exist. Let me explain what I mean by that by asking you a question. What if your mother had chosen not to do the hanky-panky with your dad? How would that make you feel? You wouldn't exist in this world if she didn't do the hanky-panky with your dad. Does your sadness over not existing mean your dad should have the right to force her to do the hanky-panky? The correct answer here is no. Your right to exist in this world does not trump your mother's right to body autonomy. She has the right to say no to your dad using her body for hanky-panky, even if that means you don't exist in this world. And in the same way, my mother has the right to say no to me using her body, even if it means I don't exist in this world. Women have the right to say no to sex for the same reason that women have the right to say no to a pregnancy. And that's the right of body autonomy. Everyone owns their own body, and no one has the right to use their physical body without their permission. What you're trying to do here is you're trying to get people to empathize so hard with the fetus that we're willing to overlook the woman. And friend, that's not going to work for me because my right to life does not trump my mother's body autonomy. My mother had decided that she did not want to give me the gift of life. I do not have the right to take it. If my mother had decided she did not want to loan her organs out for my use, then I would be okay with that because my right to life does not trump her right of body autonomy. You asked us to have empathy for the fetus. I'm asking you to have empathy for the woman. Imagine for 1 second what it would be like to have the whole world think they're owed your body. Walk a mile in those shoes. Yes, they literally demonize empathy. Just look at this article from John Piper's Desiring God Ministries. It's called The Enticing Sin of Empathy, How Satan Corrupts Through Compassion. The article itself is written in a style borrowed from C.S. Lewis, where the author is pretending to be Satan or a demon, teaching other demons how to accurately attack Christians, and through them, God. So it's like this sarcastic guide of how to turn Christians against God. And how you do it is empathy. Getting them to empathize. He talks about how Christians are loving and they want to love people and they see people suffering and they want to reach out and help them. And this is where Satan can get them because they'll be tempted to go against God's word in order to help people. They'll be tempted to focus on how people feel as opposed to what God says is good for them. And the message is Christians have to fight that. Never let empathy make you turn against God's word. Never prioritize how your actions harm people over what God tells you to do. And the thing is Christians will handle this differently based on how much tolerance they have for the discomfort of turning off their empathy. Like, for instance, take the issue of homosexuality. Some Christians will say, I know it feels really, really bad for you to not be able to act on these feelings and get into a romantic relationship with someone of the same sex. But it actually is better for you. You're actually going to be happier this way. Even though you're not really, really happy, it will be happier in the long run. If you get in that relationship, really bad things will happen and it'll be dangerous for you. This is the better option. So they're trying to make that case on the horizontal line. We don't know why yet. I don't have any actual evidence that you're going to be happier, but I believe in God, and so I believe it must be this way because I can't tolerate the idea that I'm actually causing you harm. I need to believe that I'm doing the better thing for you, that I'm not contributing to your suffering, because that causes me pain. Meanwhile, other Christians will say, actually, it doesn't matter if it causes you pain. They might fully admit that you will suffer here on earth more, that you will be less happy. And they will say, that's okay, because your happiness is not the goal. God's glory is the goal. Those are the arguments made by people who are not bothered as much by your suffering. Having to ignore their empathy is not really causing them harm. So they're fine with just being truly honest about it. But either way, they're both doing the same amount of harm. And they're both being taught that empathy is not something that should be guiding them. That empathy itself might actually be the problem. In fact, that empathy could even be a sin. I don't love you. It's important to me that you know that. Because when I was a Christian, I believed everything I did was because I loved people. I told them they were going to hell because I loved them. I told them their lifestyle was evil because I loved them. I hurt people because I loved them. Christianity cheapened love, took duty and fear and arrogant superiority and renamed it love. In this version of love, harm didn't matter as long as you presented biblical truth. No matter how good my intentions ever were when confronting a non-believer, I didn't love them. You can't love someone that you don't ever even really see. False intimacy to convert someone to your religion is the trick of a used car salesman. Except a used car salesman is just selling you a crappy car. An evangelist is selling you the notion that you are fundamentally sick and broken, and then telling you that you don't get to be offended or hurt because they love you. It's the ultimate gaslighting, and I don't want to be a part of that.